At 11:18 p.m., Hailey Bryant stood beneath a flickering bus shelter in downtown Baltimore, clutching the last blue ticket she had left. The final bus would take her home to her 8-year-old son, Caleb. Then she noticed the boy, 9 years old, alone, shivering beside the curb with a crumpled address in his hand. When the bus pulled up, Hailey looked at the ticket, then at the frightened child. "Everybody needs a way home," she whispered, pressing it into his palm. "What about you?" he asked. Hailey forced a smile. "I've got feet." She never noticed Adrian Mitchell standing beneath an awning across the street, staring at her, as if he had just seen a ghost from his own childhood. "Before we continue, tell us what country you're watching from and your local time. And if stories like this mean something to you, you're always welcome here." By 4:30 that afternoon, Hailey Bryant had already folded more sheets than she cared to count. The laundry room beneath the Harbor Crown Hotel had no windows, so the weather outside existed only in fragments brought down by other employees. The cold wind coming off the harbor, the gray sky over Baltimore, the promise of rain after dark. Down there, the seasons were measured differently, by the heat rolling from industrial dryers, by the sting of detergent in cracked knuckles, by how long a person could stand before the ache in her lower back stopped feeling temporary. Hailey knew all those measurements. At 33, she had become good at dividing life into manageable pieces. 20 minutes to get Caleb ready for school, 14 minutes from their apartment to his bus stop, 8 hours scheduled at the hotel, assuming nobody called out, 37 minutes home on public transit if every connection behaved, and exactly 6 days until payday. She pushed a cart of warm towels toward the folding table and checked the clock above the supply cabinet. 4:32 p.m. Still fine. Her shift was supposed to end at 10:45. The last bus she could reasonably catch left downtown shortly after 11. That gave her enough time to change clock out and walk 3 blocks to the stop on Fayette Street. Enough time, Hailey had learned, was a dangerous phrase. Life could take 10 minutes from you without asking. A jammed machine, a late supervisor, a child with a fever, a bus that pulled away while you were still waiting for the crosswalk signal. 10 minutes could cost $20, sometimes more. Her phone vibrated inside her locker during break. The message was from Caleb. "Best thing today, I got 1820 on spelling." Hailey smiled. She typed back, "What happened to the other 2 3 dots appeared. We don't talk about those." A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Good news. Vanessa Cole stood near the doorway holding a clipboard against her hip. At 44, Vanessa had worked at the Harbor Crown long enough to know which machines lied about being empty and which employees could be trusted when the hotel was drowning in laundry. "My son got 18 out of 20 on spelling. That's an A in my house. It's an investigation in mine." Vanessa smiled and continued down the corridor. Hailey looked at Caleb's message once more before putting away her phone. Their little ritual had begun 2 years earlier, one evening after Hailey had come home exhausted and angry about a rent increase. 6-year-old Caleb had watched her sit at the kitchen table without touching dinner. He had asked, "Was everything bad today?" Hailey remembered looking at him and realizing she was teaching her son something without meaning to, that a difficult day and a worthless day were the same thing. So she had made a rule. No matter how terrible the day was before bed, they each had to answer one question. Best thing today. Sometimes Caleb's answer was pizza at school. Sometimes Hailey's was finding a quarter in the laundry room. Once during an especially difficult month, her answer had simply been, the hot water worked. The rule had survived everything else, including the death of her car. Her 2007 Honda Civic sat behind their apartment building, now occupying a parking space with the solemn uselessness of a monument. 3 weeks earlier, it had begun jerking between gears. Hailey had driven it to a neighborhood mechanic and watched his expression change after the test drive. Transmission. The estimate was $280. Hailey had thanked him, driven home carefully, and parked the Honda. She had not driven it since. On the kitchen table in their apartment sat a narrow black notebook. Every Sunday night, Hailey opened it after Caleb went to bed. Rent, electric, phone, groceries, school lunch, laundry detergent, bus fare. She wrote everything down because numbers frightened her less when they stayed still on paper. This week, the arithmetic had been particularly unforgiving. After groceries and the electric bill, she had $41.63 available until Friday. $7 was tucked into an envelope marked car. It seemed almost ridiculous against $2.80, but Hailey added something every payday. $5, $10, once $23. She refused to stop. The rest had to carry them through the week. That morning before leaving home, Hailey had placed one prepaid bus ticket inside the pocket of her work jacket. The ticket was pale blue, thin enough to bend easily with black printing across the front. She had folded it once down the middle. Her guaranteed ride home. At 2:50 that afternoon, before heading to work, Hailey had stood in the doorway of Renee Washington's apartment across the hall. Renee was 52, with reading glasses she constantly misplaced on top of her own head, and a laugh loud enough to travel through walls. "You said before midnight," Renee had reminded her. Before midnight. "I'm serious, Hailey. I have to be at St. Agnes at 5:30 tomorrow." "I know." Renee worked food service at the hospital and already did more for Hailey than Hailey liked asking. Caleb appeared behind Renee carrying his math workbook. "You're coming home before I sleep." "That depends." "On what?" "Whether you actually sleep." Caleb considered this loophole. Hailey kissed his forehead. Homework, shower. No negotiating with Miss Renee. She negotiates hard. "I learned from raising 3 boys," Renee called from the kitchen. Hailey smiled, but before leaving she looked at her son a second longer than necessary. Caleb lifted a finger. "Best thing today. I won't forget." Now, hours later, in the hotel basement, Hailey reached into her jacket pocket during break and touched the folded edge of the blue ticket. Still there. She returned to work. By 7, the dinner rush upstairs had filled the laundry chute with table linens. By 8:30, Hailey's shoulders burned. At 9:40, one of the younger attendants left early because her daughter had a fever. Hailey quietly absorbed part of her workload. At 10:07, she checked the clock. 38 minutes. She could practically see the evening assembling itself in her mind. Clock out, walk fast, catch the bus, get home, thank Renee, heat the leftover chicken and rice, sit beside Caleb for 5 minutes if he was still awake. Best thing today. Hailey grabbed another stack of towels. Then an alarm sounded somewhere above them. Not the fire alarm, a maintenance alert. A minute later, hurried footsteps came down the service corridor. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. Her earlier smile was gone. "Everybody hold up." The machines continued rumbling behind her. Vanessa looked around the room. "We've got a pipe leak on 11. Housekeeping just sent down 2 full carts of soaked linen, and there's more coming." Hailey slowly looked toward the clock. 10:12 p.m. Vanessa followed her gaze. "I need at least 3 people to stay." Nobody spoke. Hailey slipped one hand into her jacket pocket. Her fingers closed around the folded blue ticket. For the first time that night, getting home no longer felt guaranteed. For several seconds, nobody volunteered. The industrial dryers kept turning their low mechanical thunder, filling the silence Vanessa Cole had left behind. Hailey Bryant stared at the clock. 10:12 p.m., 33 minutes until her shift was supposed to end. A little more than an hour until the last bus she could count on was gone. Vanessa lowered the clipboard. "I know nobody wants this," she said. "I don't either. But 11 has water across half the hallway. Housekeeping is stripping 6 rooms, and engineering says they need everything cleared before morning." One employee looked at the floor. Another suddenly became fascinated by a stack of pillowcases. Hailey understood. Everyone in that basement had somewhere else to be. Vanessa began naming people. "Marcus already covered Tuesday. Tasha has her daughter. Leon's opening tomorrow." Her eyes settled on Hailey. That was enough. Hailey felt the blue ticket through the fabric of her jacket. How long? 20 minutes, maybe 30. Hailey almost laughed. Maybe 30 was how people missed buses. "I have childcare until midnight." Vanessa's expression softened. I know. That somehow made it harder. The hotel had been cutting overtime for weeks. Rumors were circulating that management might reduce hours after Thanksgiving. Hailey had no savings large enough to absorb even one shortened paycheck. She could say no. Vanessa would probably let her leave. But Hailey also knew how workplaces remembered things nobody officially wrote down. Who stayed, who left, who could be counted on. She glanced at the clock again. If I stay, I need to leave the second we're clear. You have my word. Hailey tied her apron tighter. Okay. The first cart arrived 2 minutes later. Wet sheets sagged over the sides like collapsed sails. Towels had soaked up enough water to double their weight. Hailey and another attendant, Mrs. Bell, began separating the loads. At 10:19, washer 4 refused to start. Hailey pressed the cycle button again. Nothing. Come on. She opened the door, shifted the load, and tried again. The machine beeped. Error. Mrs. Bell groaned. That thing picks its moments. Hailey crouched and checked the latch. A twisted washcloth had caught against the seal. She pulled it free, shut the door, and restarted the machine. 10:23. Still possible. They loaded another washer. Then their left wheel on the linen cart jammed. Mrs. Bell tried dragging it. The cart lurched sideways. Leave it, Hailey said. I've got it. Together they pushed. The wheel scraped across the floor. Halfway to the sorting table, Mrs. Bell stopped and pressed a hand against her lower back. You okay, just old? You're 59. That is old in laundry years. Hailey smiled despite herself. Go sit for a minute. No, baby, you're trying to leave. And you're trying to walk tomorrow. Hailey lifted the wet linen herself. Her shoulders protested immediately. 10:31. Her phone vibrated. She ignored it. Then it vibrated again. At 10:36, Hailey finally checked. Renee, Caleb is still awake. A second message appeared. He says you haven't done best thing today? Hailey closed her eyes. She typed quickly. Tell him I'm coming. Make him sleep. Renee responded almost immediately. I tried. Your child has legal arguments. Hailey smiled for half a second. Then she looked at the clock. 10:38. 7 minutes before her scheduled end time. But the new laundry was nowhere near finished. Vanessa came around the corner carrying another bag. Hailey's stomach sank. I thought that was the last cart. So did I. Vanessa. I know, I really have to go. Give me 10 more minutes. 10. Hailey hated that number. She thought of Caleb lying on Renee's sofa fighting sleep because his mother had made a promise. She thought of the blue ticket. 10 minutes, 10, Hailey said. They worked without talking. At 10:47, Mrs. Bell reached for a soaked laundry bag and nearly dropped it. Hailey was already moving toward the door. She stopped. The elevators were 20 yards away. If she kept walking, she could still make it. Behind her came the sound of the bag hitting the floor. Oh, Lord. Hailey turned. Mrs. Bell was trying to lift it again. For one brief moment, Hailey resented everything. The pipe, the hotel, the broken Honda, the bus schedule, even the fact that she had noticed Mrs. Bell struggling. Then she walked back. Move. I can get it. You're going to throw your back out. Hailey took one side. Together they lifted the bag onto the cart. Thank you, Mrs. Bell whispered. Hailey nodded and ran. She changed without showering, pulled her coat over her work clothes, and rushed to the time clock. 10:56 p.m. She stared at the screen. 11 minutes late. Exactly 11 minutes stolen from a schedule that had contained almost no mercy to begin with. Hailey clocked out and hurried upstairs. Cold air struck her face as she pushed through the employee entrance. Baltimore glistened beneath streetlights. The pavement was damp, and wind threaded between the buildings. She opened the rideshare app while walking. $29.74. Hailey stopped. Nearly $30 for one ride. Her mind immediately converted it. Milk, eggs, bread, Caleb's lunch snacks, 2 bus fares, a portion of the electric bill. She closed the app. Her hand went into her pocket. The folded blue ticket was still there. One problem at a time, she whispered. She started running. Her work shoes were not made for it. At the first intersection, the pedestrian signal turned red. Hailey looked both ways, waited for a delivery van, then hurried across when the light changed. 10:59. Her phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. "Are you almost home?" Hailey typed while walking. "Almost on the bus." It was not exactly true, but she needed it to become true. She crossed another block. 11:03. The bus stop was still several streets away. Hailey picked up her pace. A cold ache formed beneath her ribs. 11:07. She passed a convenience store, a closed pharmacy, and a restaurant where employees were stacking chairs behind the windows. 11:11. Now she could see the shelter. No bus. Relief hit so suddenly she nearly laughed. She had made it. Hailey slowed, catching her breath. Then she noticed someone beneath the shelter. A child. A boy stood near the bench in a dark jacket, shoulders pulled tight against the cold. No adult stood beside him. No parent approached from either direction. He held a crumpled piece of paper in one hand and kept looking from it to the street signs. Hailey's relief disappeared. She glanced behind her. Nobody. The boy looked toward her. For a second, their eyes met. He immediately looked away, trying to appear as though everything was fine. Hailey recognized that expression. She had worn versions of it herself. She approached carefully. "Hey," the boy tightened his grip on the paper. Hailey stopped several feet away. "You waiting for somebody?" No answer. Then quietly, "My aunt." Hailey looked at the empty street. "Where is she?" The boy swallowed. "I don't know." Hailey's hand moved instinctively toward the blue ticket in her pocket. Far down Fayette Street, two headlights appeared. A city bus was coming, and suddenly the 11 minutes Hailey had lost inside the hotel no longer seemed like the biggest problem of her night. Hailey did not move closer. The boy was already frightened. The last thing he needed was an unfamiliar adult crowding him beneath an almost empty bus shelter at 11 o'clock at night. So she stayed a few feet away. "What's your name?" He hesitated. "Noah." "I'm Hailey." Noah Parker looked about 9, maybe a little younger, when fear softened his face. His dark jacket was zipped to his chin, but it was too thin for the November wind. He kept one fist buried inside a sleeve while the other held the crumpled paper. Hailey noticed something else. He was reading the street signs, not wandering, not playing, trying to solve something. "Is your aunt supposed to meet you here?" Noah shook his head. "Do you know where she is?" Another shake. Hailey crouched slightly, not enough to invade his space. "Okay. Tell me what happened." Noah looked down at the paper. "We were at the store." "What store? The big one with all the floors." Hailey knew which department store he meant. "My aunt was paying, and I went to look at the Christmas stuff. Then I came back and she wasn't there." His voice tightened. "I thought she went outside." "So you went outside?" He nodded. "There were a lot of people. I saw somebody with a coat like hers, so I followed them." Hailey could already see how it had happened. One wrong doorway, one familiar-looking coat, one crowd moving faster than a child could think. Then what? It wasn't her. Noah finally looked at Hailey. "I tried to go back, but I didn't know which way. How long ago, I don't know." His lips trembled, and he pressed them together. Hailey did not tell him not to cry. She had always hated when adults said that to children, as if fear became embarrassing the moment tears appeared. Instead, she asked, "Do you have a phone?" "My aunt's." Noah pulled a small phone from his backpack. "I tried calling her, but her phone is here." "Of course. Can I see it?" He handed it over. The screen stayed black. Hailey pressed the power button. Nothing. Battery. It died. "All right." Hailey took out her own phone. "What's your aunt's name?" "Darlene Parker." "Do you know her number?" Noah recited it from memory. Hailey dialed. The call rang. Once. Twice. Then voicemail. She tried again. No answer. Hailey checked the time. 11:13. She looked toward Fayette Street. The headlights were closer now. Her stomach tightened. What's on that paper? Noah unfolded it. An address had been written in blue ink. My aunt made me keep it in case I ever got lost. Hailey read the street name. West Baltimore. Not close, but familiar. You live there, my aunt does. I'm staying with her this week. Hailey opened the transit map on her phone. The loading symbol spun. Come on. The map appeared. She entered the address. The route populated. Her eyes stopped. The approaching bus could take Noah most of the way there. Her bus, the one she needed. Hailey immediately searched for alternatives. A later route. Nothing useful. Another bus line required a transfer that had already stopped running. She looked toward a convenience store across the intersection. Stay right here where I can see you. Noah stiffened. You're leaving? No. I'm going 20 feet. Hailey walked quickly to the store entrance. The employee inside was turning the lock. Excuse me. He shook his head through the glass. We're closed. There's a lost kid at the bus stop. Can we charge a phone for 5 minutes? The man looked toward Noah. His expression changed, but he still shook his head. Register's closed. I can call police. Hailey considered it. That might ultimately be necessary. But a late-night police response could take time, and Noah knew where he needed to go. Can you at least try this number? The employee opened the door a few inches. Hailey gave him Darlene's number. He called from the store phone. No answer. Sorry. Thanks for trying. Hailey returned to Noah. 11:15. The bus was 2 blocks away. Noah noticed her expression. Am I in trouble? The question caught her off guard. No. My aunt told me not to walk away. That means you made a mistake. It doesn't mean you're in trouble with me. Noah stared at the pavement. She's probably mad. She's probably terrified. He looked up. Hailey softened her voice. Those can look the same sometimes. A gust of wind moved through the shelter. Noah shivered. Hailey instinctively adjusted the collar of his jacket. Then she stopped herself and let him do it. Do you know your neighborhood? Yes. Do you know the grocery store on Monroe? Noah nodded quickly. We go there. The bus route passed within 3 blocks of it. Hailey looked at the transit map again. If Raymond Ellis was driving tonight, she knew him by sight. He had driven the late route dozens of times. Maybe there was another solution. Maybe Raymond would let Noah ride. Maybe somebody on the bus could help. Maybe Hailey could somehow stretch 1 ticket into 2 people getting home. She reached into her pocket. The blue ticket felt absurdly light. A tiny rectangle of paper. Yet suddenly it seemed to weigh as much as everything waiting for her at home. Caleb, Renee, the promise, the leftover chicken and rice. Best thing today. Noah looked down the street. Is that the bus? Hailey followed his gaze. Yes. Across the intersection, a black SUV had stopped near an office building. Adrian Mitchell stepped from the building beneath a stone awning, his coat buttoned against the wind. 20 minutes earlier, he had left a conference room after one of the most frustrating meetings of his month. He should have gotten into his vehicle. Instead, movement at the bus shelter caught his attention. A woman in a hotel uniform, a child. Adrian paused. He watched Hailey show Noah something on her phone, watched her point toward the route sign. Then he noticed the folded blue ticket between her fingers. Something about the scene made him remain where he was. The bus slowed toward the curb. Noah stepped closer to Hailey. What should I do? For the first time, fear fully entered his voice. Hailey looked at the boy, then at the bus, then at the ticket. Behind her eyes, she could see Caleb waiting on Renee's sofa. She could almost hear him asking the question she had promised to answer. Best thing today, the bus pulled in. Its brakes sighed. The doors folded open, and Hailey realized there was no longer enough time to search for a solution that cost her nothing. The bus doors remained open. Warm light spilled across the wet sidewalk, cutting a bright rectangle through the cold. Behind the wheel sat Raymond Ellis. Hailey recognized him immediately. He had driven the late route often enough that they had exchanged the small acknowledgments familiar strangers develop over time. A nod when she boarded. A quiet evening. Sometimes when the bus was nearly empty, Raymond waited an extra second if he saw a hotel worker running toward the stop. Tonight his eyes moved from Hailey to Noah. "You two getting on?" Hailey stepped closer. "Raymond, I need a favor." He leaned slightly towards the open door. "What happened?" "This boy got separated from his aunt downtown. He knows her address." Noah lifted the crumpled paper. Raymond's expression sharpened. "You know where you're going, son." "Yes, sir." Hailey held up her phone. "His aunt lives near Monroe. Your route gets him close." Raymond glanced at the address. 3 blocks from my stop. Can you tell him when to get off? I can keep him up front." Relief flashed across Noah's face. Then Raymond asked the question Hailey had been dreading. He got fair the city seemed to go quiet around her. Hailey could hear the bus engine idling, the soft rattle of the ventilation system. Somewhere behind them, tires passed over wet pavement. She put her hand into her pocket. Her fingers closed around the blue ticket. "1," she said. Raymond looked at her. He understood immediately. Hailey tried once more. "Can you let him ride without it?" Raymond exhaled. "You know I would if I could." He glanced toward the small camera mounted above the driver's area. "They've been auditing fares all month. I already got written up once." Hailey nodded. She did know. Everybody had rules hanging over them. Raymond had a job to protect, too. Noah looked from one adult to the other. "What does that mean?" "It means we're figuring it out," Hailey said. But there was nothing left to figure out. The ticket in her hand was worth only a few dollars. To Hailey tonight it was worth miles. It was Renee getting enough sleep before her hospital shift. It was Caleb not waking up wondering where his mother was. It was the difference between sitting inside a warm bus and walking through Baltimore after 11 at night in shoes designed for standing beside industrial washers. She checked the time. 11:18. Noah rubbed his hands together. Hailey thought of Caleb. For one painful second, she imagined herself stepping onto the bus. She could call the police for Noah. She could ask Raymond to wait while someone came. She could tell herself that Noah was not her responsibility. And none of those choices would make her cruel. That was what made the decision difficult. Sometimes doing the right thing did not mean choosing between good and evil. Sometimes it meant choosing which person would carry the hardship. Hailey looked at Noah. He was 9. She was 33. That was enough. "Give me your paper." Noah handed her the address. Hailey turned it over and wrote her phone number on the back. "When you get off, stay with Mr. Raymond until he tells you exactly where to go. Understand?" Noah nodded. "You walk straight to your aunt's house. No shortcuts. No following anybody because their coat looks familiar." His eyes dropped. "I know. I'm not fussing at you. I need to know you heard me. I heard you. And when you find your aunt, you give her this." Hailey tapped her number. "Tell her to call me." She looked at Raymond. "You'll make sure I'll make sure." Only then did Hailey unfold the ticket. The crease down its center had softened from being carried all day. She held it for a second, then placed it in Noah's palm. His fingers closed slowly around it. He stared down. "Isn't that yours?" "Yes." "How are you getting home?" Hailey felt the cold wind against the back of her neck. She smiled anyway. "I've got feet." Noah did not smile. He looked genuinely troubled by the answer. "You could get on too. Not with one ticket. I can stay here." "No." The word came more firmly than Hailey intended. She softened. "Noah, listen to me." She crouched until they were nearly eye level. "Everybody needs a way home." Something in the sentence made Adrian Mitchell stop breathing for a moment across the street. He had been watching without meaning to. Now the sound of those words reached him through traffic and cold air, imperfect, but unmistakable. Everybody needs a way home. Suddenly he was 10 years old again. his mother's tired hand around his. A bus station, coins being counted twice, a woman he never saw again. Adrian gripped his car keys. Across the street, Hailey stood. Go. Noah climbed aboard. Raymond pointed toward the first seat behind him. Right there, young man. Noah sat, but immediately turned toward the window. Hailey raised one hand. He raised his. The doors folded shut. The bus pulled away. Hailey remained on the curb until its red taillights passed through the intersection. Only then did her shoulders drop. She looked at the empty road where the bus had been. Okay, she whispered. Her phone showed 11:21. She opened the navigation app. Walking time 1 hour 47 minutes. Hailey stared at the number. Of course, she almost laughed. Instead, she put the phone away and tightened her coat. Across the street, Adrian stood beside his SUV. He could walk over, offer money, offer a ride, ask her name. But something held him there, not hesitation. Memory. The woman from his childhood had disappeared before his mother could ever properly thank her. For decades, Adrian had remembered only fragments: her wool coat, her tired voice, the coins she pushed toward the driver. And one sentence. A child ought to have a way home. Now, after all these years, another exhausted woman had given away her own ride for the same reason. Hailey started walking. She never looked across the street, never saw Adrian, never saw the shock on his face, never saw him glance down at the keys to a vehicle worth more than everything she owned. Adrian watched her disappear around the corner. Then he looked toward the direction the bus had gone. Earlier that evening, he had spent nearly 2 hours discussing whether a late-night transit route serving working-class neighborhoods was worth keeping. The numbers said no. 20 minutes ago, Adrian had believed the numbers. Now, one question followed him toward his SUV. What exactly had those numbers failed to count? By 11:34 p.m., Hailey could no longer feel the tips of her fingers. She tucked both hands beneath her arms and kept walking. Baltimore looked different after the buses thinned out. Storefront gates had been pulled down. Restaurant lights disappeared one by one. Delivery trucks occupied loading zones that had been crowded with cars only hours earlier. Hailey's work shoes struck the pavement in a steady rhythm. Left, right, left, right. She had walked 12 minutes. The navigation app still showed more than an hour and a half. Don't look at it, she muttered. She looked anyway. Her phone battery was at 27%. Hailey switched off the screen. She needed enough power for Noah's call, and for Renee, especially Renee. She dialed her neighbor while waiting at an intersection. Renee answered on the second ring. Where are you walking? Silence. Then walking where home? Hailey Bryant. I missed the bus. You told me you were almost on it. I was. What happened? Hailey watched the pedestrian signal count down. It's complicated. At 11:30 at night, complicated is not an answer. I'm okay. Renee exhaled sharply. You always say that when you are very clearly not okay. Despite herself, Hailey smiled. How's Caleb asleep? Finally. Good. Where are you exactly? Hailey told her. Renee went silent again. That is not close. I know. Call a ride. It's $30. I'll give you the money. No, Hailey. You have your own bills, and you have a child. Who is safe with you? The light changed. Hailey started crossing. I'll be home. You better keep your phone on. I will. And call me if anything feels wrong. I promise. When the call ended, Hailey saw a bench outside a closed pharmacy. Her feet begged her to sit. She didn't. Sitting would make standing again harder. 3 blocks later, the skin behind her right heel began burning. She knew what that meant. Blister perfect. She adjusted her step and continued. Back on Fayette Street, Adrian Mitchell was still sitting inside his SUV. The engine was running. The heater was on. Yet he had not moved. Through the windshield, he could still see the corner where Hailey had disappeared. For a moment, he considered following her. He could pull alongside and offer a ride. It would take perhaps 10 minutes to get her home. His hand moved toward the gear selector, then stopped. Adrian imagined the scene from Hailey's perspective. A woman walking alone near midnight. A dark SUV slowing beside her. A man she did not know lowering the window. Even kindness could become frightening when delivered without thought. Adrian shifted back into park. He had already noticed the embroidered name of the Harbor Crown Hotel on Hailey's work jacket. If he truly wanted to find her, he could do it tomorrow. Tonight she deserved not to be followed. He turned off the engine. For several seconds, Adrian sat in the dark. Then the memory returned. His mother's hand. Cold fingers. Loose coins. A bus station 37 years earlier. He pushed it away. Not yet. Hailey had reached another neighborhood when her phone rang. Unknown number. She stopped walking. "Hello?" A woman's breathless voice answered. "Is this Hailey?" "Yes. My name is Darlene Parker. Noah gave me your number." Hailey closed her eyes. The tension she had carried since the bus left loosened instantly. He made it. He's here. Hailey leaned against a brick wall. "Can I talk to him?" There was movement on the other end. Then Noah's voice. "Hi." Hailey smiled. "You followed directions." "Yes." "Straight from the stop?" "Yes." Mr. Raymond helped. "He waited until my aunt came outside." "Good." A pause. Then Noah said, "Are you home?" Hailey looked at the empty sidewalk stretching ahead. "I'm getting there. You're still walking. Didn't I tell you I've got feet?" This time Noah laughed. It was small, but it was enough. Darlene came back on the phone. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to. I should have watched him better." Hailey opened her eyes. "Don't do that tonight. What, he's safe. Be mad tomorrow." Darlene gave a shaky laugh that turned into a sob. "Thank you." After the call ended, Hailey remained beneath the streetlight for several seconds. The wind was still cold. Her heel still hurt. She was still far from home. But one thing had changed. Noah was safe. Hailey pushed away from the wall. One problem at a time. At 12:46 a.m., she finally climbed the stairs to her apartment. Renee's door opened before Hailey could knock. Renee stood there in slippers and a robe. "You look terrible. Nice to see you too." "What happened?" Hailey told her. "Not dramatically, just the facts. The lost boy, the dead phone, the address, the last ticket." When she finished, Renee stared at her. "You gave him your bus ticket. He was 9, and you walked all the way from downtown. He was 9, Renee." Renee's frustration softened. "I know." She looked down at Hailey's shoes. "You can't keep living this close to the edge." Hailey said nothing. "One missed bus shouldn't do this to a person, I know." Renee squeezed her shoulder. "Caleb's on the couch?" Hailey stepped inside. The apartment was dark, except for the lamp near the sofa. Caleb lay curled beneath a blanket, one sock missing his schoolbook, resting open beside him. Hailey removed her shoes. The blister on her heel had broken. She winced, then crossed the room and sat beside him. Caleb stirred. His eyes opened halfway. "Mom, I'm here. You're late." "I know." He blinked sleepily. Then, somehow remembering their ritual, he whispered, "Best thing today." Hailey looked at her son. She thought of soaked hotel sheets, 11 lost minutes, cold streets, a folded blue ticket disappearing into a child's hand. A little boy got home," she said. Caleb smiled without understanding. "That's good." "Yeah." His eyes closed again. Hailey pulled the blanket higher around his shoulders. Across Baltimore, Adrian Mitchell was awake too. On the desk before him sat a financial report from Mitchell Transit Services. One line had been highlighted in red. Route 6, recommended for discontinuation. Adrian stared at it for a long time. Then he heard Hailey's words again. "Everybody needs a way home. For the first time, the red line on the page no longer looked like a route. It looked like people. At 6:10 the next morning, Adrian Mitchell was still awake. The coffee beside him had gone cold. From the 32nd floor of Mitchell Transit Services headquarters, Baltimore was slowly changing from black to gray. Office towers caught the first weak light of morning, while buses moved through the streets below like small, illuminated boxes. Adrian stood at the window. On his desk lay the report he had been staring at for hours. Route 6, recommended for discontinuation. He had read those words dozens of times over the previous month. Until last night, they had meant one thing: loss. Route 6 operated late enough to serve hospital employees, hotel workers, restaurant staff, security guards and cleaners moving between downtown employment districts and two major transit hubs. It also underperformed financially. Malcolm Hayes, the company's CFO, had made the argument clearly the previous evening. At 8:17 p.m., Adrian had been sitting at the head of a polished conference table, while Malcolm displayed a chart on the wall. "Ridership after 10:30 is inconsistent," Malcolm had said. "Fuel driver hours and maintenance put us below target every week." Nobody argued. Adrian hadn't either. "What happens if we eliminate it?" he asked. "We improve the quarter immediately. And passengers?" Malcolm clicked to another slide. Existing public routes cover portions of the corridor. Portions. It was the kind of word that sounded acceptable in a conference room. Adrian had nodded. "Prepare the discontinuation paperwork." 2 hours later, he walked outside and saw Hailey Bryant give away her last bus ticket. Now he could not stop thinking about portions. A route covered portions of a corridor. A paycheck covered portions of a month. A childcare arrangement covered portions of a work schedule. And when those portions failed to connect, somebody walked home. Adrian returned to his desk. His eyes fell on an old photograph displayed beside the computer. Lorraine Mitchell stood in front of a narrow brick apartment building, wearing a grocery store uniform beneath an oversized winter coat. Beside her was 10-year-old Adrian. His mother had been 29 in that photograph, younger than Hailey. For most of Adrian's childhood, Lorraine worked 2 jobs: morning cashier, evening cleaner. She had never owned a reliable car. Public transportation was not a convenience in their household. It was infrastructure. One December night when Adrian was 10, Lorraine's cleaning shift ran late. They reached a bus station after 11. Adrian remembered fluorescent lights, a vending machine humming in the corner, his mother opening her purse. Coins landed in her palm. She counted them, then counted again. Not enough. The memory had embarrassed Adrian as a boy, not because he was ashamed of his mother, because he saw fear cross her face. Lorraine asked the driver whether she could pay the difference the following day. The answer was no. Rules were rules. Then, a woman waiting behind them stepped forward. Adrian could no longer remember her face. He remembered a brown wool coat, a paper grocery bag, hands rough from work. The woman placed money beside the fare box. Lorraine immediately protested. "I can't take that." The stranger shrugged. "I'm not giving it to you." She glanced at Adrian. "I'm getting him home." Lorraine tried to ask for her name. The woman waved the question away. A child ought to have a way home. That sentence had remained somewhere inside Adrian for 37 years. He had built his company partly because of nights like that. He had begun with 2 used passenger vans transporting hospital workers between overnight shifts and parking lots. Then came corporate contracts, airport routes, hotel partnerships, a fleet, investors, executive meetings, margins. Somewhere along the way, transportation had become colored lines on maps. Last night, Hailey had turned those lines back into people. At 8:02 a.m., Malcolm entered Adrian's office carrying a folder. "You're early. I never left." Malcolm stopped. "That sounds healthy." "It isn't." He placed the folder on Adrian's desk. Route 6 discontinuation approval. Adrian opened it. His signature line waited at the bottom, one stroke of a pen. He picked it up. Malcolm began discussing the implementation timeline. We notify contracted stops this week. Drivers can be redistributed by the 1st of next month. Adrian looked at the numbers. Then he imagined a woman checking a rideshare app. $29.74. He didn't know Hailey had seen that exact price. But suddenly he understood what a missed connection could mean. How many Route 6 riders work after 10? Malcolm paused. I'd have to pull the data. How many have another route within 15 minutes? I don't know. How many rely on childcare? Malcolm frowned. We don't collect that. How many people walk home if we cut this, Adrian? That's not something our system measures. Adrian set down the pen. Exactly. Malcolm looked at him. What's going on? Delay this 30 days? Why? Because we know what the route costs us. Adrian pushed the folder away. We don't know what losing it costs them. Malcolm remained silent. Then he sat down. Something happened. Adrian looked toward the window. I saw a woman give a kid her bus ticket last night. Malcolm waited for the rest. That changed a multi-million-dollar operating decision. Adrian met his eyes. It showed me there was information missing from it. That answer Malcolm understood better. 30 days. 30. Malcolm took back the folder. I'll tell operations. When he reached the door, Adrian spoke again. One more thing. Malcolm turned. Adrian wrote 2 words on a notepad. Harbor Crown. There was a woman at the Fayette Street stop around 11:18. Early 30s? Hotel laundry or housekeeping uniform. You know her name, no. You want security footage? No. Adrian shook his head. Call the hotel. Ask politely. Don't make this strange. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. What exactly are we looking for? Adrian remembered Hailey kneeling beside Noah. Remembered the blue ticket. Remembered her remaining alone as the bus left. The person who gave away her ride home. And when we find her, Adrian looked again at Route 6. I want to ask her a question. What question? Adrian leaned back. The one nobody in this building seems to know how to answer. Malcolm waited. Adrian tapped the report. What does it actually cost someone when the last ride home disappears? 2 days later, Hailey Bryant was feeding damp pillowcases into an industrial press when Vanessa Cole appeared beside her. Hailey? Hailey kept working. If this is another pipe leak, I'm quitting professionally. Vanessa did not smile. There's a man upstairs asking for you. Hailey stopped. What man? Adrian Mitchell. The name meant nothing to her. Should it? Vanessa stared. Mitchell Transit Services. Hailey shook her head. He owns the company. Okay. I fold sheets, Vanessa. I don't study transportation executives. Vanessa lowered her voice. He asked for you by name. That changed things. Hailey wiped her hands on her apron. Why, he wouldn't say. 10 minutes later, Hailey entered a quiet employee meeting room near the hotel's administrative offices. Adrian stood when she walked in. He wore a dark suit beneath a charcoal overcoat. No entourage, no assistant. Just a man in his late 40s holding himself with the careful stillness of someone accustomed to being listened to. Ms. Bryant, yes. Adrian Mitchell. He extended his hand. Hailey shook it but remained standing. What can I do for you? Adrian noticed the distance in her voice. I think I should explain why I'm here. That would help. 2 nights ago, you were at the bus stop on Fayette Street. Hailey's expression changed immediately. How do you know that I was across the street? Her shoulders tightened. You were watching me. I was leaving a meeting. I saw you talking to a boy. Noah. I didn't know his name. Hailey studied him. Why were you watching? Adrian could have softened the truth. He didn't. Because I saw you give him your ticket. Hailey said nothing. And then I watched you walk away. Something about that bothered her. Not because she had done anything wrong, because an intensely private moment had apparently belonged to someone else too. Noah got home safely, she said. I'm glad. If that's what you came to ask. It isn't. Adrian reached into his coat and placed an envelope on the table. Hailey looked at it. What's that? Not much. Enough to cover the ticket and some transportation expenses. She did not touch it. No. Adrian paused. I also made a few calls about transmission repair costs. If your car, how do you know about my car? I don't. I was told you've been using transit regularly. I made an assumption. And now you want to pay to fix it. I thought it might help. Hailey's face remained calm, but her voice hardened. Mr. Mitchell, I gave a scared 9-year-old a bus ticket. I know. I didn't submit an application for a reward. That isn't how I meant it. Maybe not. She pushed the envelope toward him. But if I take money because somebody happened to see me do something decent, then I've turned that ticket into something it wasn't. Adrian looked down at the envelope. He had expected hesitation. He had not expected refusal, I understand. Do you? He considered the question. Maybe not yet. That answer softened something in Hailey, though only slightly. Adrian returned the envelope to his coat. All right. No money. Hailey nodded. Was there anything else? Yes. He pulled out a chair. Can I ask you a question? Hailey glanced at the clock. My break ends in 12 minutes. I'll need less. She sat. Adrian sat opposite her. What time was your shift supposed to end that night? 10:45. What time did you leave? 10:56. 11 minutes. Yes. And 11 minutes nearly left you stranded downtown. It did leave me stranded. Adrian nodded. Why, Hailey almost laughed. Because buses have schedules. I mean, why was there no workable alternative? There was. What a rideshare for $29.74. Adrian went quiet. Hailey leaned back. You want to know how this works? I do. My car needs a transmission. I don't have $2,000 sitting around. So I take the bus. She counted on her fingers. If my shift ends on time, fine. If housekeeping needs 15 extra minutes, not fine. If I miss one connection, I miss another. If the last bus goes suddenly, getting home costs $30. She paused. $30 doesn't sound catastrophic in a conference room. Adrian said nothing. But $30 is groceries. It's part of the electric bill. It's money I promised myself I'd put toward my car. Hailey leaned forward. And childcare doesn't move because the bus is late. My neighbor still has work in the morning. My son still needs me home. Adrian listened without interrupting. That's what people miss, Hailey continued. One bus doesn't ruin your life. It just knocks over the next thing. She tapped the table once. Then that knocks over something else. Adrian thought of Route 6. How many people at this hotel deal with that? Hailey shrugged. Ask them. We do surveys. That's not what I said. The answer stopped him. Hailey glanced at the clock. 6 minutes. Adrian reached into his wallet. This time he did not produce money. He placed a business card on the table. My company is reviewing late-night service. We're putting together a small working group. Hailey stared at the card. I'm not a transportation planner. No, I don't have a degree in logistics, I know. Then why me? Because yesterday I sat in a room full of people who could tell me exactly what a route costs to operate. He paused. Not one could tell me what you just told me. Hailey's eyes narrowed. What are you asking? Come to one meeting. Tell us what we're not measuring. For free, no. That mattered. Adrian continued. You'd be paid by the hour, same as any outside participant. Hailey picked up the card. So this isn't charity, no. What is it? Adrian remembered his mother counting coins beneath fluorescent lights. Paying someone for what they know. Hailey turned the card over. There was nothing on the back. No promises. No check. Just a phone number and an opportunity she had not expected. Vanessa appeared through the glass outside and tapped her watch. Hailey stood. My break's over. Adrian rose too. You don't have to decide now? I wasn't going to. For the first time, Adrian smiled. Fair enough. Hailey walked toward the door, then stopped. Mr. Mitchell. Yes, if you really want to understand late-night transportation, don't just talk to me. Who should I talk to? Hailey opened the door, the people waiting for it. She returned downstairs. That evening, when she emptied her pockets at the kitchen table, Adrian's business card fell beside her black budget notebook. Hailey stared at it. Then she placed it beside the envelope marked car. She did not call. But she did not throw it away. Adrian Mitchell's business card remained on Hailey Bryant's kitchen table for 3 days. It survived breakfast cereal, Caleb's math homework, 2 unpaid utility notices she had already scheduled around payday, and 1 cup of coffee that nearly spilled across it. Hailey never moved it far. But she never called either. On Sunday evening, she opened her black budget notebook. Rent, electricity, phone, groceries, bus fare, car. She added $10 to the repair envelope. The total inside was now $147. Hailey stared at it. At this rate, her Honda might run again sometime during Caleb's senior year. She closed the envelope. You're doing the face. Caleb sat across from her, eating apple slices. What face? The money face? I don't have a money face, you do. He squeezed his eyebrows together and pressed his lips into a severe line. Hailey laughed. I do not look like that. You look worse. Finish your apples. Caleb reached for another slice, then noticed Adrian's card. Who's Adrian Mitchell? Hailey looked up. Why are you reading things on my table? Because you put words on them. She took the card from him. He runs a transportation company. Like buses. Sort of. What does he want? Hailey hesitated. He asked me to help with something. Are you going to? I don't know. Why? Because sometimes people offer help because they feel sorry for you. Caleb considered that. Does he? I'm not sure. Then ask. Hailey looked at her son. Children had an irritating ability to reduce adult complications to verbs. Ask. Go. Try. She turned the card over. The next morning during her break, Hailey called. 2 evenings later, she stood outside Mitchell Transit Services Operations Depot with the uncomfortable feeling that she had made a mistake. The building was practical rather than impressive: brick walls, wide garage doors, rows of shuttle vehicles beyond a fenced lot. Hailey checked the address again, then went inside. A receptionist directed her upstairs. The conference room held 8 people. Laptops were open. A digital map glowed across one wall. Hailey recognized Adrian immediately. Ms. Bryant. Hailey is fine. He nodded. Hailey. He introduced her to the group. Operations managers, scheduling analysts, a community liaison, then Malcolm Hayes. Malcolm shook her hand politely. Mr. Mitchell tells us you have some perspective on late-night transit. Perspective. Hailey knew that word. It was what people called experience when they were not sure it qualified as expertise. I write it, she said. Malcolm gave a short nod. The meeting began. For 20 minutes, Hailey barely spoke. Numbers moved across the screen. Ridership percentages, fuel expenses, driver utilization, route overlap. She understood some of it. Other parts sounded like a language everyone else had learned in school. For a moment, Hailey wondered why she had come. Then a scheduling analyst displayed a proposed map. We consolidate these stops, he explained, and shift the final departure from downtown to 10:43. Hailey looked up. 10:43. The analyst nodded. Yes, that doesn't work. The room went quiet. Malcolm turned toward her. For which connection? For the people. The analyst looked confused. Hailey stood and approached the map. What's here? She pointed. Harbor Crown, 2 other hotels, 3 restaurants, and a convention center, someone answered. What time do hotel evening shifts end? Nobody spoke. Hailey answered. 10:45 at mine. She pointed toward another section. Restaurants varies, Malcolm said. Most kitchen closers aren't walking out before 11. The analyst folded his arms. The ridership model indicates 10:43 is optimal. For the vehicle. Hailey looked at him. Not for the passenger. Adrian said nothing. That mattered to her. He was not rescuing her from the room. He was making the room listen. Hailey returned to her chair and opened her bag. She pulled out her black notebook. "This is my transportation model." A few people smiled uncertainly. Hailey opened to the current month. "My car broke." She pointed to a line. "Bus pass." Another. "Emergency ride share." Then another. "That was $29.74 because I left work 11 minutes late." Malcolm leaned forward. Hailey continued. $30 doesn't destroy somebody's finances by itself. She flipped the page. But look what happens next. Her finger moved down the numbers. If I spend $30 getting home, this grocery number gets smaller. If groceries get short, I use money from somewhere else. If I use the electric money, then next week I'm behind. She looked around the room. One missed bus doesn't create one problem. She tapped the notebook. It creates a chain. The room had become completely silent. Hailey pointed back toward the map. "You're moving the last departure 2 minutes before my shift even ends." The scheduling analyst looked at his screen. "What departure time would you recommend? Don't ask me yet." He blinked. "Why?" "Because I work at one hotel." Hailey closed her notebook. "Talk to the nurses. Talk to dishwashers. Talk to security guards. Ask when they actually get outside, not when their scheduled shift technically ends." Malcolm looked at Adrian. "This kind of survey would take time." Hailey turned toward him. "You're deciding whether people have a ride home." "Maybe it should." Malcolm's expression tightened. Adrian finally spoke. "She's right." Hailey immediately looked at him. Adrian corrected himself. "More accurately, we don't know whether she's right because we haven't collected the information." That was better. He looked around the table. "So we collect it." After the meeting, Hailey packed her notebook into her bag. Adrian approached. "You changed the room." "No." She zipped the bag. "I asked a question." "Sometimes that's how rooms change." Hailey glanced through the window toward the depot floor below. Drivers were checking vehicles before evening routes. For years, she had thought of her life as something she needed to escape. Broken cars, bus schedules, childcare calculations. Bills moved from one week to another. She had never considered that surviving those things had taught her anything anyone might value. Adrian handed her a timesheet. "Don't forget this." Hailey looked at it. 2 paid hours. Not a gift, not an envelope. Work. She signed her name. On the bus home that evening, Hailey opened her budget notebook. For the first time, she did not look at the numbers as evidence of what she lacked. She looked at them as evidence of what she understood. And somewhere between downtown and her stop, Hailey Bryant began to wonder whether the life she had spent trying to survive might also contain the knowledge to build something better. Over the next 3 weeks, Hailey Bryant began asking a question she had never thought could matter to anyone beyond her own kitchen table. What time do you actually get out? Not what time the schedule said. Not what time the payroll system recorded. Actually, at 10:38, one Tuesday night, she stood near the employee entrance of the Harbor Crown with Andre Coleman, a 39-year-old dispatcher from Mitchell Transit Services. Andre carried a clipboard. Hailey carried coffee. A housekeeper emerged. "Scheduled until 10:30. What time is it?" The woman checked her phone. 10:40. Andre wrote it down. "Why the difference, supervisor inspection?" 2 minutes later, a dishwasher from a restaurant down the block appeared. Scheduled 10:30, actual 10:47. Then a security guard, scheduled 11:00, actual 11:16. The pattern kept repeating. Andre stared at the page. "Our system assumes shift end equals curb time." Hailey sipped her coffee. "Your system has never changed out of a wet uniform." Andre laughed. "That needs to go in the report." "No, it does not. They moved through downtown over several nights." Hailey talked to hotel housekeepers, kitchen workers, janitors, and security guards. At St. Agnes, they met a CNA named Keisha Grant, who regularly finished at 1100, but rarely reached the bus stop before 11:18. If I miss the connection, Keisha said I call my sister. And if she can't come, Hailey asked. "Right app. How much 22 on a good night?" 35 on Friday. Andre wrote the number. Hailey did not need to. She understood it. Another worker, a dishwasher named Luis, showed them 3 rideshare receipts from 1 week: 2611, 3148, 2490. That's groceries, Hailey said. Luis shook his head. That's my phone bill and groceries. At first, Hailey thought the problem was simply that buses stopped too early. It was more complicated. People did not necessarily need free transportation. Most told her they were willing to pay a reasonable fare. What they needed was predictability, a ride that existed after the kitchens closed, after the last patient handoff, after the hotel supervisor finished inspecting rooms, away home during the hours when the city seemed to assume everyone had already arrived somewhere. By the second week, Andre had pinned a large map to the depot wall. Colored marks covered it: employment clusters, transit hubs, missed connections, late-night destinations. Hailey stood in front of it one evening. Look. Andre followed her finger. 3 dense groups of workers sat within a relatively narrow corridor. If a shuttle started here, Hailey said, then came through downtown and connected here and here. Andre marked 2 transit hubs. What window? 10:30 to 1:30. Andre studied it. A loop. Exactly. They built a rough schedule. 3 employment zones. 2 major transit connections. Repeated loops through the late-night gap. At the next meeting, Hailey presented it. Malcolm Hayes looked at the map, then at the projected costs. You've added driver hours. Yes, Hailey said. Fuel, yes. Maintenance. Vehicles generally require that. Andre coughed to hide a laugh. Malcolm ignored him. The point is, this costs more than consolidation. Hailey remained standing. The cheapest route is one nobody can use. We're not running a social service. I didn't ask you to. Then what are you asking to sell transportation at the time people need transportation? Malcolm leaned back. How many riders? Hailey hesitated. They had interviews, they had schedules, but they did not yet have enough hard numbers. Malcolm saw it. That's the problem. Adrian sat at the far end of the table. Hailey glanced toward him. He did not intervene. Part of her wanted him to. Another part was glad he didn't. Malcolm pointed toward the map. I understand the story. I understand the need. But if you want me to approve a pilot, prove people will ride it. Hailey slowly nodded. How much proof? Passenger counts, shift volumes, missed connection frequency, something stronger than interviews. Fine. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. Fine. You asked for proof. Hailey picked up her notebook. We'll get proof. For the next 10 days, she and Andre worked harder. They stood outside hospitals counting employees leaving after 10:30. They compared hotel staffing rosters. They logged bus arrival times. Hailey learned spreadsheets from Andre at the depot after work. The first time she accidentally erased an entire column, she stared at the screen in horror. Andre pressed 2 keys. The data returned. Hailey blinked. What did you do, undo? That exists. Andre laughed so loudly a driver looked through the office window. Hailey learned quickly. Her days became crowded. Get Caleb ready. Work at Harbor Crown. Meet Andre. Collect data. Catch the bus. Go home. Best thing today. Sleep. Repeat. Caleb began leaving small notes beside her coffee. You got this, Mom. One morning he drew a bus with approximately 14 wheels. Hailey taped it inside her notebook. For the first time in years, exhaustion felt attached to something other than survival. She was building something. Then on Thursday afternoon, Vanessa called her into the laundry office. There was a new schedule on the desk. We're restructuring evening coverage, Vanessa said. Hailey picked up the sheet. Her stomach tightened. Starting Monday, her shift would move from 2:45 10:45 to 4 Beaured p.m. midnight. Every depot meeting, every survey session, every hour she had been using to work with Andre. Gone. Is this permanent for now? Can someone else take it? Vanessa shook her head. Seniority and staffing. I don't have much room. Hailey stared at the paper. 3 weeks earlier, an unexpected opportunity had entered her life. Now the job she could not afford to lose was colliding directly with the opportunity she could not afford to waste. That night, Hailey sat at her kitchen table after Caleb went to bed. On one side lay her Harbor Crown schedule. On the other lay the proposed shuttle route. Between them rested the black notebook containing her bills, her research Caleb's 14-wheeled bus drawing, and the blue ticket-shaped empty space where everything had begun. Hailey pressed both palms against the table. For years, whenever life changed the rules, she had adjusted. Worked later, slept less, walked farther, made the numbers fit. But this time, something inside her resisted. Maybe the answer was not always to bend. Maybe sometimes she had to ask the world around her to move too. Hailey Bryant spent most of Friday trying to convince herself that losing the transit project would not matter. It had been 3 weeks, that was all. 3 weeks of surveys, maps, spreadsheets, depot coffee, and conversations with people who understood exactly what it meant to watch a bus disappear while standing 50 feet away. The Harbor Crown was her real job. It paid her rent. It bought Caleb's groceries. It kept the lights on. The project was an opportunity. Opportunities, Hailey had learned, were easier to sacrifice than necessities. At 6:20 that evening, her phone buzzed inside her apron. Andre. Meeting moved to Monday, 7 p.m. Malcolm wants final counts. Hailey stared at the message. Monday, she would be working until midnight. She typed, "I can't make it. New hotel schedule." Andre responded almost immediately. "Call Adrian." Hailey frowned. "No." A second message arrived. "He can probably fix it." That was precisely why she would not call. At the end of her shift, Adrian was waiting near the hotel lobby. Hailey stopped. "Andre told you?" "He did. I told him not to. He didn't ask me to interfere, but you could." Adrian nodded. "Yes." Hailey folded her arms. One call from you to hotel management, and suddenly everybody becomes very flexible. Probably. Don't. Adrian studied her face. "You could lose the project, I know, and this schedule change wasn't your choice. I know that too. Then why refuse help?" Hailey looked toward the lobby windows. "Because I don't want my life working only because a powerful man keeps making phone calls for me." Adrian said nothing. "If I'm going to build something that helps people stand on their own," she continued, "I should probably practice." A faint smile touched Adrian's face. "That sounds inconvenient." "It is extremely inconvenient. So what are you going to do?" Hailey looked toward the employee elevators. "I'm going to talk to Vanessa." The next afternoon, Hailey arrived 20 minutes before her shift, carrying her black notebook. Vanessa was reviewing inventory in the laundry office. "Got a minute? If this is about the schedule, I already told you it is." Vanessa sighed. "Hailey, I'm not asking you to undo it because I don't like it." She opened the notebook. "I'm asking you to look at another option." That got Vanessa's attention. Hailey had spent the morning building her argument. Her attendance record, productivity numbers, seniority, the shifts other employees preferred. She laid out a proposed trade. If Tasha takes 4 to midnight Monday and Wednesday, I cover her Friday and Saturday closing shifts. Leon said he'll switch Tuesdays if I take his Thursday workload. You already asked them yes. Vanessa looked through the notes. And if somebody calls out, I cover when I can, same as now. You'd still need 2 evenings free. Yes. For the transportation project. Yes. Vanessa leaned back. "You really want this?" Hailey almost answered quickly. Instead, she considered it. "Yes," she said. "I do." Vanessa studied the proposal again. 30 days. Hailey blinked. "What, we try it for 30 days. If coverage falls apart, we go back." Relief rushed through her. "Fair?" And Bryant, "Yes. Next time bring me a proposal before looking like you're headed to your own funeral." Hailey laughed. "Deal." Walking out of the office, she realized something. Nothing miraculous had happened. Nobody had rescued her. She had asked, negotiated, built a case, and the world had moved an inch. That evening she met Adrian outside the depot. "I fixed it. You sound surprised. I am. Adrian held the door open. Good. But he did not go inside. There's something I should tell you first. Hailey noticed the seriousness in his voice. They sat on a bench near the depot entrance. For several seconds, Adrian watched buses move through the yard. When I was 10, my mother and I got stranded at a bus station. Hailey waited. Her name was Lorraine. She worked 2 jobs. That night, she didn't have enough fare for both of us. Adrian described the fluorescent lights, the coins in Lorraine's palm, the driver refusing. Then the woman in the brown wool coat. She paid. Hailey listened quietly. My mother tried to get her name. She wouldn't give it. What did she say? Adrian looked at Hailey. A child ought to have a way home. Hailey went still. That's why you were staring at me? Yes. Adrian looked toward the buses. I spent years thinking I built this company because I understood people like my mother. His voice became quieter. The night I saw you, I had just left a meeting where I nearly approved cutting Route 6. Hailey remembered the route analysis. The late route, yes. Why it loses money. And you were going to cut it? I was? Hailey did not reassure him. Adrian noticed. I expected you to say something. I'm thinking. That's rarely comforting. Hailey looked at him. Then don't make this about me. Adrian frowned slightly. You saw me give away 1 ticket. Fine. It reminded you of your mother. Fine. She pointed toward the depot. But if all that happens is you help Hailey Bryant because she made you feel something, nothing changes. Adrian remained silent. Fix what you almost stopped seeing. The words landed harder than praise would have. Adrian looked down. You're right. I know. He laughed once. Then his expression grew serious again. No campaign. What? Marketing suggested we could build the pilot launch around your story. Hailey stared at him. No. I already said no. No posters, no. No heroic single mother inspires CEO nonsense. Absolutely not. Good. Adrian stood. This program has to survive without your story, and without your guilt. He nodded. That too. Inside, Andre had spread their newest passenger counts across the conference table. Malcolm was already waiting. Hailey took her seat, not as a woman Adrian had rescued, not as a symbol, as someone with work to do. Malcolm pushed a spreadsheet toward her. You said you'd bring proof. Hailey opened her notebook. I did. For the next hour, she walked them through the numbers, and this time nobody in the room wondered why the laundry worker was there. The first shuttle left the Mitchell Transit Depot at 10:27 p.m. on a cold Thursday night. There was no ribbon, no photographer, no banner with Hailey Bryant's face on it. Hailey preferred it that way. She stood beside Andre Coleman in the dispatch office holding a clipboard and watching Vehicle 214 move across a digital map. 3 minutes early, Andre said. Is that good for the depot? Yes, at a stop early can be worse than late. Hailey nodded and wrote it down. 3 months earlier, she would never have thought about the difference. Now she understood that a bus arriving early could abandon someone just as effectively as one arriving late. The pilot loop connected 3 late-night employment areas with 2 major transit hubs. It would operate until 1:30 a.m. For tonight, Hailey had one responsibility. Watch what actually happened. The first passenger count came in. Stop 12, stop 20, stop 31. Malcolm Hayes stood near the office window. 3 passengers. It's the first loop, Hailey said. I'm aware. Andre glanced at her. Don't bite. I wasn't going to. You had the face. What face? The face that gets people fired. Hailey almost smiled. At 10:52, Vehicle 214 completed its first loop, 5 total passengers. Malcolm wrote something on his tablet. Hailey hated that tablet. At 11:03, the second shuttle approached the hotel district. Still quiet. Hailey checked the schedule. Wait. Andre looked at her. What Harbor Crown evening shift? 10:45, 5 officially, closer to 11 in reality. They watched. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then figures appeared from the employee entrance. 1, 3, 7. Hotel workers hurried toward the shuttle stop. Andre leaned toward his radio. 214. Hold 30 seconds. The driver's voice returned. Copy. A woman in a housekeeping uniform climbed aboard. Then 2 kitchen employees. Then a security guard. Passenger count 14. Hailey exhaled. There's your shift. Andre grinned. There's your data. Malcolm said nothing. The next stop was near St. Agnes. A woman in navy scrubs came running from the hospital entrance. Hailey recognized her. Keisha Grant. Keisha reached the shuttle just before the doors closed. Later at the transit hub, she spotted Hailey through the window and stepped down briefly. You did this? We did. Keisha shook her head in disbelief. My sister was asleep when I called tonight. What would you have done, Ride app? How much? Keisha held up her phone. $32. Then she smiled. Not tonight. The doors closed. Hailey watched the shuttle leave. $32. On a corporate report, it was nothing. In someone's kitchen, it was dinner. At 11:41, another passenger boarded near the restaurant district. Luis, the dishwasher Hailey had interviewed. He sat near the front and immediately made a phone call. Hailey happened to be riding that loop to check timing. Hey, mija, Luis said quietly. A child's voice answered through the phone. No, I'm not in a car. New shuttle. He smiled. I'll be home before you're asleep. Hailey turned toward the window. That sentence hit harder than any ridership statistic. The program was not giving people new lives. It was giving them pieces of their existing lives back. 20 minutes. $30. A bedtime conversation. The chance to arrive home before everyone was sleeping. At 12:18, the passenger count reached 39. By 1:30, 63 people had ridden. Not extraordinary, not enough to declare victory, but enough to prove they existed. Back at the depot, Malcolm reviewed the figures. Better than expected. Andre looked at Hailey. That is Malcolm language for, I'm impressed. I said better than expected. See, Malcolm ignored him. We still need several weeks of data. Hailey nodded. I know. Fuel costs were slightly above projection. I know. And the second loop ran 6 minutes behind. I definitely know. Malcolm closed his tablet. But people used it. Hailey looked through the glass toward vehicle 214, returning to the yard. Yes. After Malcolm left, Hailey helped Andre organize the final sheets. Adrian had been present for much of the night, but deliberately stayed away from dispatch decisions. Near 2 in the morning, he approached her. You have a minute. If you don't ask me to look at another spreadsheet. No spreadsheet. He held a small, white envelope. Hailey stared at it. We've done this before. No money. That sounds exactly like something a man with money would say before handing me money. Adrian smiled. Open it. Hailey did. Something pale blue slid into her hand. She froze. The bus ticket. The same fold down the middle, the same softened edge. For several seconds, Hailey simply stared. Where did you get this? Darlene Parker contacted the hotel trying to find you. Vanessa connected her with our office after she heard about the project. Hailey turned the ticket over. Her old phone number was still written on Noah's crumpled address paper, but the ticket itself now had a tiny pencil mark near one corner. There's something else. Adrian handed her a folded sheet of notebook paper. Hailey opened it. The handwriting was unmistakably a child's. Dear Ms. Hailey, I wanted you to have your ticket back. Hailey stopped reading. For weeks, the blue ticket had existed in her memory as the thing she had lost. Her ride, her comfort, her way home. Now it rested in her palm again. Only it no longer meant any of those things. Andre quietly walked away, giving her space. Hailey continued reading. Noah did not write about how cold the night had been. He did not write about being rescued. Instead, one sentence caught her. You showed me where to get off and made me remember the address so I wasn't scared anymore. Hailey read it twice. Adrian watched her. He remembered what you taught him. Hailey folded the letter carefully. I thought he'd remembered the ticket. Maybe the ticket wasn't the most important part. Hailey looked through the depot window. Outside Vehicle 214 had gone dark after its final run. 63 people had gotten somewhere tonight because a group of people had built a route. Hailey placed the blue ticket against Noah's letter. A few weeks earlier, she had given away her last ride home. Tonight, that same ticket had returned after helping open a road for dozens of others. And for the first time, Hailey wondered how far one small act could travel after it left your hands. Hailey Bryant read Noah Parker's letter 3 times before putting it away. Not because it was long. It wasn't. The handwriting wandered slightly downhill across the notebook paper, and one word had been crossed out so aggressively that a small hole had formed beneath it. But one sentence stayed with her. You showed me where to get off and made me remember the address so I wasn't scared anymore. The next morning, Hailey placed the letter inside her black budget notebook. Then she took the blue bus ticket and slipped it into the same pocket. For weeks, she had thought the important thing she gave Noah was transportation. Now she understood that Noah remembered something else. Direction. Hailey had not carried him home. She had helped him understand how to get there. That distinction stayed with her when the shuttle pilot entered its 4th week. Ridership increased. 63 passengers became 78, then 91. Some nights were slower. Others exceeded projections. But the financial problem remained. Malcolm Hayes made that clear during a Monday meeting. Demand is proven, he said. Hailey looked at him. That sounded almost complimentary. It was factual. Andre Coleman leaned toward her. That's basically a standing ovation. Malcolm ignored them. Ridership is not the problem anymore. Sustainability is. A spreadsheet appeared on the screen. Driver wages, fuel, maintenance, insurance, administrative costs. Hailey studied the numbers. If Mitchell Transit absorbs everything, how long does the pilot last? Malcolm looked toward Adrian. Adrian answered. As long as I'm willing to subsidize it. Hailey shook her head. Then that's not a system. Adrian nodded. No, it's a favor. No one disagreed. Hailey leaned back. That bothered her more than she expected. A favor could disappear. A new CEO could arrive. A bad quarter could happen. A board could change priorities. People like Keisha and Luis would organize their lives around the shuttle, only to lose it when somebody in an office decided generosity had become inconvenient. What businesses benefit from this? As Hailey asked. Malcolm frowned. What do you mean the shuttle gets employees home? Yes. So who benefits when employees know they can actually get home after closing? Andre answered first. Employers. Hailey stood and walked toward the map. Harbor Crown needs people willing to work evening shifts. She pointed toward the hospital. St. Agnes needs CNAs until handoff is finished. Then toward the restaurant district. These places need dishwashers and kitchen staff after public transit starts thinning out. Malcolm's expression changed. Hailey noticed. What, keep going? If workers are spending $30 to get home, eventually some stop taking those shifts. Turnover, Malcolm said. Exactly. Adrian leaned forward. So instead of treating the shuttle as a passenger-only service, the employers buy in. The room became quiet. Andre stood beside Hailey. Membership contracts, Malcolm was already typing. Potentially, Hailey continued. Businesses contribute because reliable transportation helps staffing. Mitchell runs the service. Riders still pay something reasonable. Why charge riders at all? Adrian asked. Hailey looked at him. Because they told us they don't want charity. She remembered Luis showing her the rideshare receipts. They want something dependable they can afford. Malcolm looked up from his laptop. This could work. Hailey smiled. Andre placed a hand dramatically over his heart. Did everyone hear that? Don't ruin it? Over the next 2 weeks, the idea moved from whiteboard to proposal. Hailey attended meetings with hotel managers and hospital administrators. The first time she entered one, wearing her Harbor Crown laundry uniform because she had come directly from work, she felt every eye notice. Months earlier, she might have apologized. Now she simply opened her notebook. She talked about missed shifts, employee turnover, late-night transportation costs, retention. The numbers spoke the language executives expected. The stories explained why those numbers mattered. 3 employers agreed to participate, then a 4th. The pilot received another 6 months of funding. No donation from Adrian was required. When Malcolm announced the result, Hailey allowed herself a long breath. It could survive. Not forever yet, but longer than one man's guilt. 2 days later, Adrian asked Hailey to meet him in his office. She arrived carrying her notebook. "If this is another meeting, I need coffee first." "It isn't." He slid a printed job posting across the desk. Community Transit Coordinator. Hailey read it, then read it again. "What is this A position we're creating?" Her eyes narrowed. "For me, no." The answer came quickly enough that she looked up. Adrian continued. "It's a position the project proved we need." Hailey scanned the responsibilities. Community outreach, service planning support, employer partnerships, ridership analysis. Many were things she had already been doing. You want me to apply? Yes. Apply? Yes. Not just take the job. No. Hailey studied him. "Would I have to interview with a panel? Would you be on it? I can be. I'd rather you weren't." Adrian blinked, then smiled. "Why?" "Because you're the man who saw me give Noah the ticket. I'm aware. I don't want anybody wondering whether I got the chair because you liked the story." Adrian considered that. Fair. Hailey looked back at the posting. There were qualifications she did not have. Software she was still learning. Professional experience described in language that made her nervous. "You think I can do this?" Adrian did not give her the reassurance she expected. "I think you can compete for it." Hailey looked at him. That answer meant more. She folded the posting and put it into her notebook beside Noah's letter. Good. If I get it, I want to know I earned it." That evening, Caleb found Hailey sitting at the kitchen table reading the posting. "What's that, a job? You already have one. A different job." Better, Hailey considered the question. "Different." Caleb pulled out the chair across from her. "Are you scared a little?" He nodded thoughtfully. Then he pointed toward the notebook. "You told Noah where to get off so he wouldn't be scared." Hailey stared at him. So figure out where you're getting off." Hailey laughed. But after Caleb went to bed, she opened the notebook again. Bills filled the first pages. Then surveys, routes, passenger counts, Noah's letter, the blue ticket. Her entire life seemed to be sitting between those covers. Hailey placed the job posting beside them. For years, that notebook had helped her calculate how to survive what was coming. Tonight, for the first time, she used it to prepare for where she wanted to go. For the next 9 days, Hailey Bryant became the most demanding interviewer in Baltimore. He sat across from Hailey at their kitchen table, wearing a clip-on tie borrowed from a school costume and holding 3 index cards. "Tell me about yourself." Hailey folded her hands. "My name is Hailey Bryant, and for the past several months, boring." "Excuse me, you sound like the robot lady on the phone." Hailey stared at him. "You're 8. I'm the interview person." "You're eating peanut and butter from a spoon." Caleb lowered the spoon. "Professional peanut butter." Hailey laughed despite herself. The real interview was Friday, and beneath the humor, she was terrified. The Community Transit Coordinator posting asked for experience in community outreach, data reporting, stakeholder communication, and transportation operations. Hailey had done all 4. She simply had not done them beneath job titles that made them sound official. One qualification bothered her most. Bachelor's degree preferred. Hailey had completed 3 semesters of community college before Caleb was born. Then childcare became too expensive. Work became necessary. Preferred isn't required, Andre had told her. It still means somebody else may have it. Somebody else probably will. Hailey had looked at him. "That was supposed to encourage me, no. It was supposed to remind you not to compete with imaginary people. So Hailey prepared. She learned the ridership reports until she could explain them without notes. She practiced discussing employer partnerships. She wrote down every mistake made during the pilot and what they had changed because of it. Thursday night, she opened her black notebook. Near the front were old grocery calculations: 4318, 2762, 51.09. Numbers once written with fear. Farther back were passenger counts, employer commitments, route timing adjustments. Then Noah's letter, and the folded blue ticket. Hailey touched it once. She closed the notebook. Friday morning she wore navy slacks, a cream blouse, and the only blazer she owned. Caleb inspected her before school. "You look like you fire people. Is that good?" "I think so." At 10:00 a.m., Hailey entered the conference room at Mitchell Transit Services. Adrian was not there. He had kept his promise. The panel consisted of Malcolm Hayes, a human resources director, an operations manager, and a representative from one of the hospital partners. 4 chairs faced Hailey. She sat. The first questions were manageable. Why was she interested in the position? What had she learned from the pilot then? The operations manager asked. "You have limited formal experience in transportation. Why should we choose you over someone who has worked in the industry for years?" There it was. Hailey could have talked around it. Instead, she nodded. "You shouldn't choose me if another candidate can do this job better." Malcolm looked up. Hailey continued, "I don't know everything about transportation operations." She glanced toward the digital map. 6 months ago, I didn't know what driver utilization meant. Andre had to teach me how to undo a deleted spreadsheet column. Malcolm almost smiled. "But I know how to learn." She opened her notebook. "I helped interview more than 80 late shift workers. I helped identify the service gap between scheduled shift endings and actual curb times. I helped collect passenger data for the pilot." She turned another page. "When ridership proved demand, but funding became the problem, I proposed employer participation because employers benefit from reliable transportation too." The hospital representative nodded. Hailey looked around the table. "I know what I don't know." She paused. "But I also know something transportation systems sometimes forget." What the HR director asked. Hailey answered simply. "The passenger has a life after the stop." Nobody wrote for several seconds. The interview continued for another 40 minutes. Some answers came easily. Others did not. When asked how she would manage a large budget, Hailey admitted she had never done it professionally. "But I can learn the system," she said. "And I know better than to pretend competence I haven't earned yet." At 10:58 she walked out. No applause, no indication, just waiting. Waiting was worse. At Harbor Crown that afternoon, Hailey folded towels while checking her phone far too often. Nothing. At 5:12, nothing. At 7:30, nothing. By the time she got home, she had convinced herself she had not been selected. Caleb sat at the kitchen table. "Well, no call. Maybe they're slow. Companies are very talented at being slow." At 8:16, her phone rang. Hailey froze. Unknown number. Caleb pointed. "Answer it," she did. "Hello, Hailey Bryant." "Yes, this is Monica from Mitchell Transit Human Resources." Hailey gripped the counter. "We'd like to offer you the Community Transit Coordinator position." For a second, she said nothing. Caleb watched her face. "Ms. Bryant, yes. Sorry, I'm here." Monica explained the salary, benefits, start date. It was not wealth. It was something Hailey valued more. Stability. When the call ended, Caleb jumped from his chair. "You got it." Hailey nodded. "I got it." He crashed into her arms. 3 months later, Hailey stood outside their apartment beside the old Honda Civic. The repaired engine was running. She had paid for the transmission herself. Caleb climbed into the passenger seat. "We can drive everywhere now." Hailey smiled. Not everywhere. The next Monday, she left the Honda parked and took the shuttle. Caleb was confused. Why Hailey looked through the window at cleaners, hospital workers, restaurant employees, and security guards settling into their seats. Because if I'm going to help run something people depend on, I should know what it feels like to depend on it. As the shuttle moved through Baltimore, Hailey opened her notebook. The blue ticket rested between 2 pages. Once she had thought getting ahead meant never needing a bus again. Now she understood something different. Moving forward did not require forgetting the people still waiting at the stop. 1 year after Hailey Bryant gave away her last blue bus ticket, rain fell over Baltimore. Not a storm, just the persistent November rain that polished sidewalks, blurred headlights, and found its way beneath coat collars, no matter how tightly people pulled them closed. At 10:56 p.m., Hailey stood beneath a shelter near one of the expanded late-night shuttle stops. This time she was not waiting desperately for a ride. She was checking one. Vehicle 218 is 4 minutes behind, Andre Coleman said through her phone. Y construction on Pratt. Connection at West Hub driver already called ahead. They'll hold. Hailey smiled. A year earlier, 4 minutes had been the kind of thing nobody measured until somebody was stranded. Now it was somebody's job to notice. Her job. The late-night program had grown from one experimental loop into 3 connected routes. 6 hotels participated. 2 hospitals. 11 restaurants. Several office buildings with overnight cleaning and security contracts. Malcolm Hayes had become one of the program's strongest defenders, though Andre still enjoyed reminding everyone that Malcolm once predicted the pilot would fail. Adrian Mitchell had changed too. He no longer approved route reviews without asking a question that irritated his finance team. What happens to the passenger if we remove this? Not every route survived. Not every proposal worked. But people had entered the equation. That mattered. Mom. Hailey turned. Caleb sat beneath the shelter wearing a raincoat doing homework on a clipboard. At 9, he had decided that accompanying his mother on route checks made him an assistant. It mostly made him a child doing fractions near buses. You said 10 more minutes. I did. You said that 15 minutes ago. Hailey checked her watch. Management has failed you. Management owes me hot chocolate. That sounds like corruption. It's compensation. Hailey laughed. Then she noticed the woman at the far end of the shelter. Late 20s, restaurant uniform beneath a thin coat. A little girl stood beside her holding a pink backpack. The woman tapped a transit card against her phone repeatedly. No, no, no. Hailey recognized the sound before she recognized the problem. Panic trying not to become panic. She walked over. Everything okay? The woman looked embarrassed. My card isn't working. Where are you headed, Edmondson? Hailey checked the route display. You're in the right place. I know, but I don't have enough cash for another fare. The little girl looked up. Are we walking? The question landed somewhere old inside Hailey. For 1 second she saw Noah beneath another shelter. 9 years old, crumpled address, cold hands. Then she remembered something more important than the ticket. Direction. No, Hailey said. You don't need to walk. The woman shook her head. I don't want anybody paying for me. I wasn't offering to. That surprised her. Hailey took out her phone. Do you work around here? The woman pointed toward a restaurant. Kitchen prep. Then your employer is part of the late shift partnership. I just started Monday. That explains it. Hailey called dispatch. Andre, check emergency ride credit eligibility for a new employee at Mason Street Kitchen. 1 second. The woman looked confused. Emergency what? Participating employers keep a small pool for situations exactly like this. Broken cards, missed transfers, payroll activation delays. Andre returned. She's covered. Hailey ended the call. You're good. The woman stared at her. That's it. That's it. I pay it back. No. Your employer contributes to the program. She looked toward the approaching shuttle. Next week, make sure HR activates your employee transit account. The woman nodded slowly. Why does something like this even exist? Hailey's hand moved toward the black notebook inside her bag. She still carried it. Most of its original budget pages were no longer useful, but she had never replaced it. She opened the back pocket. The faded blue ticket rested beneath clear tape. The crease still ran through the center. Caleb had come closer. He recognized it immediately. Hailey looked at the woman. "Because everybody needs a way home." The shuttle arrived. Its doors opened. The little girl climbed aboard first, then turned and waved. Her mother paused. "Thank you." Hailey shook her head gently. "Get home." The doors closed. Across the street, Adrian Mitchell was stepping from a company vehicle. He had come for the same route review. A year earlier, he had watched Hailey from across another street. Then he had stood beside an expensive SUV while she gave away the only ride she had. Tonight he crossed immediately. No distance, no invisible wall between the executive making decisions and the people living with them. "Everything running?" he asked. 4 minutes late." Adrian grimaced. "Construction, I know." Caleb pointed at him. "You owe us hot chocolate, too." Adrian looked at Hailey. "Why, apparently management has failed him." Serious. They began walking toward the next stop. Hailey glanced back at the shuttle carrying the mother and daughter through the rain. She thought about Noah. He and Darlene still sent a Christmas card. She thought about Raymond Ellis, who had watched Noah until Darlene reached the stop. Renee, who still lived across the hall. Andre? Malcolm? Adrian? None of them had changed the story alone. That was the point. One person noticed. Another listened. Someone gathered data. Someone drove. Someone changed a schedule. Someone opened a door. And Hailey walked through it herself. Mom Caleb tugged her sleeve. "What you forgot?" Forgot what he looked offended. "Best thing today?" Hailey stopped. Rain tapped against the shelter roof behind them. Through the darkness, she could see the shuttle's warm windows moving farther down the street. A year ago, when Caleb asked that question, her answer had been simple. A little boy got home. Hailey smiled. "Someone got home." Caleb considered it. Same answer. "No." She watched the taillights disappear around the corner. Bigger answer. The blue ticket remained inside her notebook. Once it had been worth one ride. Then it became a sacrifice. Then a memory. Now it meant something else. A reminder that kindness should not end with rescuing one person from one difficult night. Sometimes kindness should ask why they were stranded there at all, and if enough people were willing to listen, learn, and build something better, one small ticket could travel much farther than any bus ever could. The deepest acts of kindness are not always the ones that cost the most money. Sometimes they are the ones that cost us something we genuinely needed ourselves. Hailey gave Noah a bus ticket worth only a few dollars, but to her that ticket meant warmth, safety time with her son. And nearly 2 hours she would not have to spend walking through the cold. Its real value was measured not by its price, but by what she surrendered when she gave it away. Yet this story is not saying that struggling people should always sacrifice more. Its deeper lesson is that individual kindness should teach us to see what made that kindness necessary. Adrian could have handed Hailey money and walked away feeling generous. Instead, he eventually learned to listen. Hailey did not need someone to build her entire future for her. She needed her knowledge to be taken seriously, and a door she could walk through on her own ability. And when that door opened, she held it open for others. Maybe home is not always an address. Sometimes home is safety, stability, dignity, opportunity. Sometimes it is simply knowing that when life goes wrong, you have not become invisible. Everybody needs a way home. If this story reminded you of someone whose small kindness you never forgot, tell us about them in the comments. Share this story with someone who might need its message today, and subscribe if you'd like to stay with us for more stories about ordinary people whose choices travel farther than they ever imagined.